Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Empowered Cancer Patient Podcast. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of working with Samantha Harris. I'm very excited to meet Samantha. She has been one of those people that I've been following for a long time. She has many, many interesting things to tell our patients about empowerment, about cancer journeys, as well as how to clear the toxins from our bodies. And so I think this is going to be a very fascinating introduction and conversation. So welcome, Samantha.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Tiffany. I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Call me Tiffany, please. We're among friends here.
Oh, yeah.
So,
All those years of schooling, you deserve to be at least, I figured I
I know
was
this is
already making it
casual,
so
though. It's
casual by saying
casual. It's
Dr.
casual here.
Tiffany instead of, by your full last name. So,
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. So, let's start with you telling everybody a little bit about yourself. You have a very big personality and a very big footprint out there right now. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are?
wow. I mean, obviously you're doing such amazing work in the cancer world for patients. And it was a world that I was part of in a different way when I was younger, because my dad was diagnosed with colon cancer when he was
Oh, wow.
48 and passed of stage 4 colon cancer at 50. So that was an incredibly impactful thing on my family, as you can imagine.
Sure.
Cancer was also my family because my dad's mom was a breast cancer survivor, and she lived to 95. She was postmenopausal, 62 when she was diagnosed, and had a lumpectomy, radiation. I think I was, so young still that I didn't even really understand what was going on. I don't even know if my parents shared that with me. And so, cancer was something that was always out there in my world of experience. I just didn't realize, with this
Mhm,
incredibly healthy lifestyle that I had been leading, or thought I was
mhm.
leading, and thought that I was doing, quote, the right things to try to, be as healthy as possible. I
Right.
definitely did not think I would become the empowered cancer patient. Well, at least the cancer patient part of that. I always felt empowered. So that I wanted to just share that with you to kind of kick things off before just
Sure.
jumping into, well, I hosted Dancing with the Stars for 8 seasons, and I was on Entertainment Tonight on the back of motorcycles with Tom Cruise, and being twirled and dipped by Hugh Jackman, and all these fun things that were going on in my life.
Wow.
Starring
Wow.
on Broadway, and the musical Chicago is Roxy Hart, lots of jazz hands. But I was this kid from Minnesota who
Uh-huh.
had big dreams of Hollywood. And I went to journalism school at Northwestern University, and I learned the ins and outs and the craft of what it meant to be a true journalist, so that it could have been entertainment that I went into, or could have been interviewing heads of state. And really,
Mhm.
the difference between interviewing heads of state and celebrities, to be honest, at the base, there's nothing different. But I chose this world of entertainment because I grew up in a family of people who love to entertain. And my dad produced all the rock concerts in Minneapolis, and St. Paul area of Minnesota. So
Wow.
I grew up backstage meeting rock stars before they were heading to stage, while they were eating the catering backstage. And my parents created one of the country's first Renaissance festivals, called King Richard's Fair, first in Chicago and eventually outside of Boston. So I really grew
That
up
sounds
in
fun.
an entertainment family, and it was very hard to get away from
Sure.
that with my own focus, even in journalism.
Wow, that's amazing. So you touched on that you had also had a little bit of interaction with the cancer world yourself.
Right.
Wait, when was that? Back in 2014, I think you mentioned?
Um, my personal journey, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, not a touch of cancer. I am fully the epitome of the empowered cancer patient. It was an empowerment I didn't realize I even had within me, that I didn't realize I needed to have,
Hmm.
and to advocate for myself. So, to give everyone listening a little bit of context, I was
Sure.
about to turn 40. My daughters were 3 and 6. And having had cancer in my family, I knew that there was this thing called a mammogram. And usually, when you were about 40, you would get one. And then you
Right.
start to get it every year. So I
Right.
thought, well, it's October. My birthday's always around Thanksgiving. It was October of 2013, actually. And I thought,
Mm.
I should get one of those mammogram things. I'm so healthy anyway. Why? I had no concern, no worries. I went in, I had the boob squish, very uncomfortable, no fun, but I got it done. I
Right.
left, I got clear results. That's what I had anticipated. I mean, because of my work on television I was always interviewed about how I stay in shape. I was on the cover of 10 different health and fitness magazines, from
Wow.
Shape to Women's Running to 4 covers of Muscle and Fitness, Hers, and articles in People Magazine and Us Weekly, always focused on what we look like, right?
Mm,
You're on television, so people are really focused on how do you get those arms? How do you get those
right.
abs? How do you stay in shape? How do you fit into a dress on the red carpet and look the right way, quote unquote. And that was always my focus because, I was on TV, and also in my 20s and 30s, we kind of just, we're very short-sighted. We are looking to look the best we can,
Mm,
not always necessarily to feel the best, and this was not on my radar. This was not a place of my own empowerment. We were not ever focused in our 20s and 30s, and until this wake-up call for me, at the beginning of my 40s, on what can our body do for us, because we get this one vessel to carry us through our lifetime, and how we treat it and what we put in, on, and around it is what will then dictate, in very big percentage of numbers, what happens with our health outcomes. So
mm.
here I was, clear mammogram results, totally what I expected. La-di-da, I'm back at my workouts, I'm doing my thing, living my life. And 11 days after that clear mammogram, I was changing after a workout. And you know how constrictive these sports bras are.
Mhm.
So I take it off, and I'm going to get a little colorful here. I do a little circle to the left, a circle to the right. I call it the soft tissue, like the soft tissue soft shoe. I'm like rubbing all around, doing it all. I breastfed my kids. I became very comfortable with my own breasts, and I was moving things around, and there was this lump. It was a lump that I swear was not there the day before.
I've heard that so many times. It's
I,
terrible.
I can only imagine you, as a medical oncologist, how many times you have heard that story, because my own cancer journey, connecting with so many patients and survivors, I hear this all the time as well. I found a lump, I had a clear mammogram, and I still found a lump, or I found a lump and they told me it was nothing. So I quickly called my OBGYN, and who was the only doctor who did a clinical breast exam. So that's who I called.
Right.
Oh, I'm not worried. You just had a clear mammogram. Come on in. She felt around. She said, you know what? You're turning 40. Welcome to the 40 club. Breasts like to make these cysts and bumps, and it's probably glandular. And she sent me on my way. A month later, the lump was still there. I went to see a second opinion, but again, it wasn't cancer. So I went to see my internist. He did the quick same clinical exam, felt around, told me it was nothing, sent me on my way. 4 months later, that pesky lump was still there. And now that inner voice that was whispering, hey, get that second opinion, was now screaming at me, hey, they just felt it. They didn't look inside it. They didn't do any diagnostics. How do they know? Are they omniscient? Do they have a crystal ball? No.
Right.
So I said, okay, I need to get a third opinion. This is where I became the empowered patient that I didn't realize I needed to be. I was just doing what my gut was telling me. And by the way, if you guys are lucky enough and you're listening, if you're lucky enough to still have your moms around, even though I lost my dad, was lucky to still to this day, lucky to have my mom around. My mom was also in my ear. Is that lump still there? Have you still had it? Have you had anyone else look at it? So even though she was in my ear, it takes us, because we are the only ones who can motivate ourselves to pick up that phone, to make that appointment, to drive in the car, to get to an appointment.
Right.
So my goal now for a third opinion was, well, I need to go only to someone who looks at breasts every day as a specialty. Now, I did not know that only breast oncologists do this. So here I was in a surgical oncologist's office, and I know I'm getting a little long-winded with the story, but I think it's really important.
Sure.
We have to be our own best advocates.
Absolutely.
And even this surgical oncologist looked at me. She did 2 ultrasounds. Well, first her fellow did, and then she did. And she's like, Samantha, you're not crazy. There's something there, but it doesn't look like cancer. So she still did a needle biopsy. Results came back from that, and even a subsequent MRI. Samantha, good news and bad news. The good news is it's not cancer, but the bad news is I don't know what it is. So here's where finding the best experts you possibly have access to, because she listened to her gut. And in that So we took it out. She said, I want you to have a lumpectomy, but it's not cancer. And she listened to her gut. She took out on the margin a little sample of what she said looked like healthy tissue in the OR, but for some reason in her gut, she just needed to biopsy that as well.
Mm.
And when I went for my final pathology results and for her to look at that incision from the lumpectomy, she said, Samantha, I am so sorry. But not only do you have ductal carcinoma in situ, you also have invasive breast cancer, and it's stage 2. And throughout the whole process of trying to figure out what my next treatment plan was going to be, what kind of surgery, another lumpectomy with radiation or a single or double mastectomy, that whole process, I was told, we caught it so early, Samantha, not a chance it went to a lymph node, we're so early, no other major treatment is necessary. And then I had that double mastectomy that I opted for because I didn't want to, we all have to put, the pros list, the cons list. I chose with my husband at my side through all of I saw 3 different surgical oncologists. I even took my pathology, picked it up at one hospital, took it to another because we were basing all of the information on the fact that it's cancer. Let's make sure it's cancer. And when I did all of that, and I'm grateful I had good insurance that allowed me to do a lot of that without paying too much out of pocket, I decided to do a double mastectomy. I'm going for the bilateral because I had spoken with a lot of women who had chosen bilateral and found cancer on the other side when they didn't know they had it. And I thought, okay, for the reconstruction purposes, because you can't get symmetry otherwise, like I'm just going to do it bilateral. And I woke up from that surgery, thankfully no cancer on the other side. So that was the most important. But 11 lymph nodes came out, and thankfully only one of them was positive. But obviously that quickly restaged me to 2B. And now we had to discuss chemo, radiation, going on an endocrine therapy and so on. So I went on tamoxifen for 7.5 years. I'm happy to share with people offline, as I'm very open about why I chose not to do chemo or radiation. Lots of opinions, lots of confusion, lots of discussions with my husband. And that sent me on my path. So that was 2014. And I had 3 surgeries that year. And then a whole new renewed life and choices that I ended up making for how to hope that I could reduce a recurrence risk.
Sure. And so here you are 10, 12 years later.
Yep, almost 12. Yep. So when we get to 2026, mid-year, I'll be at that 12-year mark.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So just out of curiosity, maybe they didn't have it back then. Did they offer you something called oncotype?
Oh, yes, I did have the oncotype. I was 13. So it was
so it was low.
It was low, which is what helped to inform my, and granted, the oncotype was looking at postmenopausal women. I was only 40. I was very premenopausal at that time. But
and a positive lymph node also.
Right. So there we had that confusion. And I did say that my lower oncotype score, even though as much credence shouldn't have been given to it because I was premenopausal, not menopausal, it did help give me a little bit more sense of calm in making my choice not to do. I mean, originally I had the cold caps reserved. I was planning to do chemo. I was planning to do radiation. I don't want to take up the whole hour talking about the treatment plan, but there were reasons why and multiple opinions that helped give me a lot more education and insight as to what made me lead to those decisions.
Yeah. Good. Well, they are individual decisions. And as long as the patient is well informed and educated and is making the decisions in the right mind, then, it's your decision to make. And certainly so far, thank God, knock on wood or plywood, things will stay that way for you. You certainly are the picture of health right now. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you. The biggest thing that I did, and by the way, people who already know my story and like, but Samantha, you're burying the lead. You had a recurrence in 2024. Oh. I did. I did. It was a local regional recurrence in the same exact site of the original tumor. And, I think either I chose not to know this. I knew always that mastectomy is not 100%. And it only does have a recurrence in about 5%. And please correct my information if I'm sharing anything that is incorrect. I believe about 5% chance of recurrence after mastectomy. But where my tumor was located was right up against the wall of the skin. And so it was explained to me not by my own surgeon, but by another surgeon I have gotten to know very well, just
Mm-hmm.
through being a national ambassador for Susan G. Komen and very out there in the keynote speaking world on
Sure.
women's wellness and health, that because of the location of it, unless they had completely maimed my entire body and taken chunks of skin out, there would have been less the chance of it coming back, because it
Mm-hmm.
was, those little microscopic cells
Right.
next to the skin. And so that also, having that information though, also really helped inform how I chose to go through my surgery and then my treatment plan after my recurrence. Again, I chose, the chemo was not on the table this time, but
Mm-hmm.
radiation was. And there was an argument that both my medical oncologist, my surgical oncologist, and the radiation oncologist all said, well, there's an argument not to do anything else after surgery, but we'd feel more comfortable if you either went on an AI,
Mm-hmm.
maybe back on tamoxifen, or had radiation. I opted not to do any of those. I chose a functional route of a lot of other things. And again, I'm very transparent and can talk with people about those choices. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, and I appreciate that you said this, because there are some oncologists who don't really give us the empowerment that we need. And obviously that's the
Mm-hmm.
name of your podcast. But as long as we go in with eyes wide open and we're really
Mm-hmm.
educated and we ask those probing questions and we're not afraid to keep the doctor in the room until we feel like we've exhausted the questions that we have.
Mm.
Um, because I think a lot of people feel like we're being rushed in and out of those
Yeah.
appointments,
Yep.
and the bedside manner might not be as warm, and so then we feel, especially as women, oh gosh, well, we shouldn't keep anybody. Especially, I will be honest, some of my male oncologists, I sometimes feel a little bit more rushed than with my
Mm-hmm.
female oncologists.
Sure.
And so, just remember, you are the one driving the bus here, and it's
Right.
your health, your journey, and
Yep.
ask questions until they are exhausted, and you are not. I mean, not that you're exhausting them.
Till the doctor falls off her chair, like, please.
It's like midnight and your doctor's like, hey, listen, I really got to go home. But no, I mean, make sure
Either that or we can order lunch. I don't know.
that's true. Bring in lunch with them. But that
Bring lunch in.
have that list of questions
Sure.
every time you go in, so you're prepared to ask the questions that you want. Yeah, you're like, why did I have Samantha on? All my patients are going to be keeping me for hours now.
No, 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 no. Don't be silly. This is what we want to hear about. This is amazing. This is exactly what I try to teach patients to do. I have an online course, I have a book. I'm really working to help women empower themselves, because a lot of we're brought up in a society where women don't take care of themselves. We take care of everybody else. We
Yeah.
put ourselves second. And I love to tell the story. I'm embarrassed to tell the story, but I just got my mammogram. I was a year and a half late for my mammogram. I was.
Wow.
It's like the shoemaker whose kids have no shoes, right?
Right.
So it goes at all levels, in all people, and how we can really sometimes lose sight of how important it is to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others as well, instead of the other way around. But
Right.
I would love to learn from you about what some of the things are that you changed. You mentioned something about your 10% toxic philosophy. What's that all about?
Yes. So one of the things that allowed me, by the way, to choose the
Mhm.
more functional approach was, and why I feel that the cancer, by the way, again, same story. When my recurrence came, I found I had clear ultrasounds, everything. And I had found this tiny little lump, and I had some of my own team tell me it was nothing. And I kept pushing and pushing. And then we
Mhm.
started to do regular ultrasounds. He wanted to do every 6 months. I said, how about every 3? And after about a year of following it, that tiny little lump changed shape. And that's when we did the biopsy and found out that it was cancer again,
Mhm.
with the same exact biomarkers as the first time around, which is what led us to realize that this most likely was a
Mhm.
recurrence from the first one. But that being said, why did I feel more confident to just do the surgery and then this more functional approach? And
Mhm.
why was that tumor so teeny, teeny, tiny, even though it had been 10 years when I first found it after my initial diagnosis? I truly believe it's how I became empowered
Mhm.
after my diagnosis. So as a journalist by training, I had no genetic link, despite my dad and grandmother's cancers, and only 5 to 10% of breast cancer is genetic, and mine had none.
Mhm.
And at first I was angry because I just wanted that quick answer as to,
Mm.
oh, it's nothing I did. This is just, this is family history. So I was very frustrated and also scared when
Mm.
I found out that I had no genetic link. And that's when I leaned on my journalism background and I started to research. And what I learned through the deep research that I did is that it is what we're putting in, on, and around our body, right? The epigenetics of it, the study of how our habits and our lifestyle choices,
Hmm.
not to ever place blame on ourselves for having a cancer diagnosis.
Right.
It's more about having that wake-up call that cancer gives us to say, okay, how can I assess what's going on in my day-to-day
Right.
and my own habits and my own choices, and where can I level up? So let's just take, all think automatically of like, what's the food we're putting in our body? Well, we know
Right.
we shouldn't have, processed foods and alcohol, but a lot of us are going to have some or a lot of both of those things. So, okay,
Hmm.
fine. Let's start. Let's reduce the amount of drinks I'm having per week. And I wasn't drinking, so that wasn't my issue. But a lot of people, we love our happy
Hmm.
hour or wine with dinner. And then processed foods, packaged foods. Okay, where can I whittle down? Animal meat. I had 21 out of 21 meals a week with some sort of animal protein. So where could I find more plant-based protein, more plant-based
Hmm.
foods, more variety of plant-based foods to help reinforce the gut microbiome, because 70% of our immune system, which fights things like cancer, is in our gut, and start to reinforce that. But what people might not automatically think of, and I know I sure as heck didn't, and I was shocked when I learned about this, because I
Mm.
spent my career in a makeup chair every day. I mean, look, a dream. I could roll out of bed looking like, the hag, and then, get in the car, go to work, sit in a makeup chair, and an hour later come out, looking like the full glam. It was great. But I never thought for a second, Tiffany, I never thought for 1 second what was in the products being put on my body,
Mm.
on my face, in my hair. What was I breathing in from the aerosols being sprayed to have that bulletproof 12-hour hair? And when I did that deep research and I learned about the ingredients that are in our products, especially here in the United States,
Right.
where we have endocrine disruptors messing with our hormones or mimicking our hormones. We have carcinogens and neurotoxins. And the average woman puts about 12 different products on our body every single day. But if you were to take each ingredient of those 12 products and
Right.
lay them out, it would probably be a mile long because there's so many different ingredients.
Right.
So maybe one product or one ingredient wouldn't cause harm, but ingredient after ingredient, layer on top
Sure.
of layer, every
Our body can only detoxify so much.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started to make those sort of very slow and systematic changes,
Mhm.
and changing out my skincare, my makeup, my hair care, my cleaning supplies. And of course I had two little girls, and now let me tell you, as teenagers, they have more makeup and hair care products than I do. And I'm trying so hard to get them to take a page from my own book.
Mm.
Teenagers don't listen very well,
No.
but but they're aware.
Actually, I've learned you just tell them to do the opposite of what you want them to do, and then usually they'll listen. They'll do that then.
I'm gonna have to try that. I think I'm going to have to try that.
My mother used that on me. She
Did
loved
you?
telling me the story about how we went prom dress shopping, and everything that she picked out, I was like, oh, I hate that one, whatever. So then she picked one, she pointed one, she's like, I hate that one. I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, that is a fantastic story, and it's
Like,
so
really?
yeah, right, exactly. Did you end up wearing that one?
Oh, that's another story. I'm from Long Island. I was a little princess. I actually ended up having one made.
Oh,
I designed it. I
you're very
designed it,
fancy. Oh
and I
my
had one
gosh.
made.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
It was
goodness.
black taffeta.
Of course it was. I
It
mean,
was
that
rhinestone.
was, yeah. I love it.
Gorgeous.
Um, so, I mean, so really what was so neat, it's a weird word to use when it comes to cancer, but what was so neat about my diagnosis was that it opened up a world to me of taking better control of my well-being than I
Mhm.
realized I even had the ability to do. Because we
Right.
can be in much better control over our health and overall wellness, whether it's, fatigue or um, y- skin conditions or irritable bowel syndrome or
Mm.
potential cancer diagnosis or heart disease. I mean, heart
Right.
disease, we always talk about cancer, but heart disease is still the #1 killer of women. And there's so many things for breast health that we
Right.
can do that also will help mitigate heart disease risk and stroke risk
Sure.
and dementia and Alzheimer's, which are still more predominantly affecting women than men. And so this was this awakening. The cancer card was something I didn't realize was the wake-up call I actually needed.
Hmm.
And although I would never wish it on anyone, and I sure as heck did not want to hear that recurrence diagnosis phone call from the nurse, it allowed me something, and you mentioned briefly, what is my 10% toxic philosophy?
Hmm.
What I learned is that in the decade between initial diagnosis and recurrence, because I was learning so much and I was just a sponge, I then was trying so hard to make everything as toxin free as I possibly could.
Okay.
And when I was trying to do 100% toxin free 100% of the time, I 100% failed because we cannot
Hmm.
possibly. It either leads to overwhelm and anxiety and
Yep.
anxiousness, or we become almost paralyzed in that, okay, well, I'm just too afraid to do anything. I'm not going to do anything at all kind of place.
Right.
But
Right.
even the smallest of steps, the smallest of changes can make a profound difference. And
Sure.
I feel that's probably why when I had my recurrence, that tumor had grown so, so, so slowly and was so tiny. And then being aware of your body. So I was able to find it. I still, 10 years in, was doing what I call booby PT. So keep the, this was something that was directed by my reconstruction surgeon to do basically put pressure points in all directions. Although now this time I'm not doing it down because I don't want them to sag. So I'm doing sideways,
Oh, does
inwards,
that work?
and pushing them up. I'm doing the pressure points every morning. I did it probably morning and night for 5 or 6 years, and then just once a day for the next few years. And I had just finally stopped doing it. But what it does is it keeps the capsule much
Hmm.
more pliable, so you don't
Hmm.
tend to get capsular contracture, which is that
Right.
hardening of the
Yep.
capsule around the implant. So, which I know you know, I'm just saying for survivors listening. So, but anyhow, because I was doing my booby PT, that's where I was like, oh my God, what is that tiny, tiny little lump?
Hmm.
And then again, not sticking my head in the sand. But the 10% toxic philosophy came after my recurrence because I realized it's sort of flipping the 90-10 rule on its head. And it's this sort of 3-part approach to acknowledge, assess, and activate. First, acknowledge that there are toxins around us in everything we're doing, whether it's, again, what we're eating or putting on our body, or toxic relationships inducing stress. Um,
Hmm.
and then we want to acknowledge what percent of toxicity each area is. Now, one thing that I wasn't even looking at were stress and sleep, because my sleep, especially when you have little kids, or I was working crazy schedules because of my entertainment news job and my other jobs I was juggling, and my sleep was not a priority. So my sleep was probably 70% toxic. My stress was 90% toxic. I would say 100%, except for that I did exercise regularly. So that automatically reduces some stress.
Right. Sure.
So assess where you are toxic in each of your areas, right? If all of your beauty products have parabens and phthalates and fragrance and all these other, petrochemicals in them, okay, well, maybe you're 100% toxic there. So where can you make one small swap at a time?
Sure.
And then whittling things down with the ultimate goal in order
Hmm.
to reach, see, I thought I was healthy. And I realized I needed to be my healthiest healthy. And that's
Right.
why I titled my book, Your Healthiest Healthy. And it's also the title of my podcast, Your Healthiest Healthy. In order to reach your healthiest healthy, we have to be 10% toxic, because instead of living fearfully, we need to live fully. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to get down to 0% toxic, because you know what? You might really have a great time every so often going out with the girls and having a drink with dinner. And that one drink, hopefully as little as possible, because we know no amount of alcohol is safe for cancer risk, breast cancer risk. But the joy that it may bring you from not the drinking itself, but the camaraderie of being with the women, that's worth that 10% toxic. I still color my hair. Now, I don't go to the salon as much as I used to because I use a petro-free, formaldehyde-free option that I do at home to lengthen the time between colors. So there's ways you can kind of.
You're going to have to share all of this stuff. Is this in your book?
So a lot of it's in my book, and then also on my Instagram, and then anyone who's listening, I have vetted so many products that meet my really high standards for being free of toxins. And so anyone who sends me a direct message, a DM on Instagram or Facebook that just says clean beauty, I will send you a free guide that has a bunch of different products that are great, because we all have to figure out what works for us.
I'm doing that now.
Okay, yeah, do that right now. There you go. Well, and same thing with food. So I'm a huge fan. Well, you saw me at the beginning. I'll bring it up. I drink this smoothie almost every day. Now I say I probably do it 4 or 5 days a week, and then I try to change it up a little bit. But I love a smoothie because you can throw in a lot of the things that are really breast protective, like broccoli sprouts and matcha green tea and flaxseed. And you can also put a lot of different plant-based foods in there and plant-based protein, and get a lot of the goodness right in your day early on, so that then you're setting yourself up for success. So I have also another free guide. It's a 50-page smoothies and more. It has like my favorite nut butter protein balls and some fun recipes. It's a free recipe guide. So that one, just send me one that says smoothies. And so clean beauty and smoothies, those will get you some fun free guides with a lot of the insight. But I share a lot of this on my Instagram, a lot of good takeaway. Obviously, my podcast, I bring in some of the top experts in the world, and then I have other episodes that are solo where I'm just coaching on a different topic every time.
Amazing. So I'm sure everybody has noticed, but if not, I'm just going to bring attention to the fact that we have Samantha's Instagram here. It's at Samantha Harris TV. And up in the right-hand corner, I have a link to her website. So feel free to join her in those spots. And I will also put this information in the show notes as well. So.
Oh, thank you. I love to share. I think the gift of cancer has been the connection I've had with so many survivors. I try to do my very, very best to respond to every single survivor or new patient or a family member, my sister, my mom's who just was diagnosed. What do I do? I really do try to respond in the DMs. Sometimes people will send me a message and they'll get like an auto link back that it's just because I get the same question a lot. But if I'm not responding to you, just keep send another DM with some arrows pointing up, so I make sure to scroll and see a message I may have missed, because it's important to me to be able to help and guide in whatever way I can, just like Dr. Tiffany is, coaching you in the world from her incredible wealth of knowledge and experience as a medical oncologist. I try to help do it as the empowered patient.
So do you use that phraseology also, the empowered patient?
When I'm talking, not as my moniker, because I'm You're Healthiest Healthy and 10% Toxic is my sort of more, my brand monikers, but I talk about the importance of being an empowered patient all the time. We have to be our own best health advocates. We know our bodies. Look, we're the only ones with ourselves 24/7. So the PSA I like to always make sure I leave people with is, we have to know our bodies better than anyone else. But the only way we can do that is by really tuning in, whether that's through mindful walks or breath work, through exercise on a regular basis, because that helps us know what's happening in our body more. And then also really making sure that we are eating in the best way possible so that we can mitigate any risk. But if we have any issues, it might be a mole that doesn't look the same, it might be a stomach issue or discomfort or bloating, or an issue with your breasts, whether it's the dimpling of a nipple or a little lump you might find. So important to just take that action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. We've learned so much about you, and you've shared so many great tips and insights into how to make ourselves healthier, and of course, how to be more empowered. I love it. So again, I want to thank you, Samantha. What parting gifts do you have for our audience?
really the information that you are more in control of your well-being than you may
Yes.
realize. And it doesn't have to be a 180 overnight. My journey is still ongoing with learning. And I just started sprouting my own broccoli sprouts this week. I didn't get air purifiers for my house until a year ago. And
Mm,
I'm this far into the journey, right? So just one small step. So here, I'm gonna give you guys each two things. One in the skincare and makeup world, changes
okay.
you can start making today, and one in the nutrition. Super simple, low-hanging fruit. You can do this. When
Okay.
it comes to your food, I want to challenge you to go into your pantry, go into your fridge, start turning around the bottles, the packages, read those labels. And if you
Mm,
see high fructose corn, really low-hanging fruit, if you see high fructose corn syrup in anything, vow to never buy it again or throw it out right in that moment and then not buy it again. Or that's number one. And then we can look at sugars and all the other things that can food
mm,
coloring and all that. There's a whole long list of things to look for. But just start with, I didn't realize how much high fructose corn syrup I had in my house. And when you start to buy the alternative brands that don't have it, and by the way, if you're like, but I love my Heinz ketchup. Well, guess what? At the very least, I mean, there are other brands I'd prefer you to use, but Heinz at least does have an organic, simple one that uses real sugar and real organic tomatoes so that they're organic because they're less heavy in the pesticides. Okay. When it comes to your makeup, your skincare,
wow.
your skin being our biggest organ,
Hmm.
start again, flip around all your products, looking at those ingredients. Two things I'm actually going to give you, two challenges. One, fragrance. Fragrance is proprietary. So that company A, who's making that lovely skin cream you're putting on your face, doesn't want it to smell nasty like all the chemicals come together. So they want to
Right.
mask it and they want to put a fragrance, or they want to put a fragrance in because they just want you to love that scent and it gives you that feel good. So they have it in there.
Right.
They have to go to company A has to go to company X. I'm gonna actually call it company F because I want to give it an F and it's an FU type of thing because fragrance can have anywhere from 10 to 400 different ingredients in it. But
Hmm.
it's a catch-all term, so that company A only has to put that one little word of fragrance. And a lot of times there are endocrine disruptors and carcinogens in the fragrances. So fragrance is one thing I want. By the way, if a company is transparent as to what is in their fragrance, 100% essential oil, organic essential oils, great. But if they're not being transparent, I would say don't use them. And the other thing is parabens. Again, we have many more things we could cut out, but that's one that's pretty easy. And I also it'll methylparaben, polyparaben, but paraben will be the suffix of that word. And
Right.
then easy, low hanging fruit to just start there and then come back to me, whether it's by the way, you can get my book like for like cents on the dollar now. So wherever you get it, or just keep coming to me, listen to my podcast, come to my Instagram. And I love sharing
Great.
and helping and guiding. So thank you
I
for
love it. I
allowing me.
love this. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Really, it's been such a pleasure, and I love all that you've shared with our listeners. So I hopefully will have another conversation with you. And I just put in my Instagram. I'm
Okay.
getting my list of my beauty creams and stuff not to buy. I'm gonna have to go upstairs and throw everything out, I think.
Start
All
small. We
right.
spent a lot of money on our beauty things, so I don't want anybody to be afraid. Just start
Do you know
small.
how many scented candles I had to throw out?
Oh,
I literally had like a whole closet full of them. I used to have one for everything I
I
did.
know they were wonderful, but
Well,
there are
yeah.
some cleaner potential alternatives
Yes.
if you still love that in your home, and air fresheners and all of that are not toxic.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you very, very
You
much. Thank
too.
you for having me.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care.